What's up, y'all? Your man Eric Wilson for the Sports Arena. Yeah, this is a wild and crazy night. You know, it's been a very interesting 24 hours. Last night I was on the show with, of course, the Queen of Hoop, Megan Price, and we were talking about the WNBA. Lo and behold, today it seems like people listen to us. They be tapping our phones, they be tapping our laptops, but the error, I guess, if what you want to call super teams is forming because we got one on the West Coast and we got one on the East Coast. So, I had to reach out to the brothers because I was like, yo, we got to talk about this. And lo and behold, the one guy who I was pretty sure he was going to show up, my man, Danny Thompson, is in the house.
Listen, how often do me and Eric Wilson get together to do a WNBA podcast?
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do it.
Hey, so, all right. So let's look at the teams that are currently constructed. All right. Here's the West Coast, the Las Vegas Aces. You got Kelsey Plum. You got Chelsea Gray. You got Jackie Young. You got Candace Parker. And then, of course, you got Asia Wilson. And then you flip it over to the East Coast, Jonquel Jones, Brianna Stewart, Benijah Laney, Sabrina Ionescu, and my heartbreak, Courtney Vandersloot. I just, man, hey, someone said it last night in the comments, and I'm gonna go ahead and just repeat that. This looks like a WNBA Finals matchup to me, right there.
This is what the WNBA has been needing for years. Like, we've been waiting for something. If you're a WNBA fan, you've been wanting something to cheer for or have something that's going to make national attention. Now, Vegas and Chicago are going to be national attention going
Vegas,
forward.
wait, hold up. Vegas and New York.
Vegas, New York. I mean, for Chicago. Chicago was in the finals the last 2 years, but Vegas and New York is going to be what everybody's been wanting to watch. Those 4 games this year, I'm pretty sure ESPN, ABC, are going to have those games on in prime time or on Sunday afternoon in a main slot. You know, Eric, I've never seen it where you have 7 of the WNBA's top 10 players literally on 2 opposite teams. This is like if the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant went against the Heatles LeBron James team in their prime at the same time. That's what we're looking at here in the WNBA. And I'm all for it.
Well, we have a difference of opinion because you, sir, are saying that the Las Vegas Aces are pretty much the proverbial team this year. And I see it, but I don't see it because I'm saying with what New York has done, for me, it just speaks to, and I want to start with the coaching side of it. Because listen, I respect and love Becky Hammon. I do. And what she was able to do her first year in, learning from Greg Popovich, I understand that. But Sandy Brondello, you saw what she did with Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner and the Phoenix Mercury squad. Now she has a squad, a true squad in New York. I mean, if you would have told me after what we saw last year with Johannes and, Benijah did come back, Dee Richards, that you were going to give Sandy another year, but then you were going to implement all the pieces she needed to be successful, I'd have been like, how's she gonna make this happen? But now here it is in a nutshell.
I mean, we all know Sandy Brondello is a Hall of Fame head coach. I mean, she's literally one of the 5 best head coaches in the history of the WNBA. Yeah. And I've covered Sandy for years with the Phoenix Mercury, and we've all seen the talent. She's had Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi, winning championships with them with DeWanna Bonner. And, she coached Skylar Diggins until she went to New York. And yes, out of all those championship-laden teams, and she's won a couple of them, this is the most talent she's ever had at one time. Even with the Australian national team, she hasn't had this much talent on one roster. But I got Vegas side of this. And the difference between Vegas and New York is this. Sandy has to put together a new offense and a new team with potentially 3 brand new starters together. Okay. Courtney Vandersloot. I know it's easier. Courtney Vandersloot, Brianna Stewart, and Jonquel Jones together. They're very familiar, but they have to get familiar with a offense that's brand new to them. You slide Candace Parker into Vegas. Basically, De'Arica Hamby's, is in Los Angeles now. So basically, you're taking out Hamby and putting in Candace Parker. It's basically one swap for another one. So I think Candace's transition is going to be a little bit easier because a lot of the things De'Arica did well, Candace does extremely well. So I think playing her, I think just sliding into it. And Candace is used to not having to be the star player. She went to Chicago and was just ready to be whatever James Wade needed. You watch this, Eric, you covered this guy. Candace was ready to do whatever she needed to. If she had to take tickets, she was going to do it. If she had to shoot threes, she had to. If she was going to be outside selling merchandise, she was going to do it. It's all about winning for Candace. And going to Vegas with three all stars in that roster. We'll talk about the roster in a second, but we're coming in with the roster we already have, and you're asking Candace just to have fun. It's easy. It's easy money that Vegas is the best team in all this.
And where I will disagree with you is simply say this, because you talk about Sloot, you talk about Stewie, and you talk about Jonquel all coming together. Overseas, they have developed some of that chemistry. I think it's just going to translate into what we see with New York this year. And the thing about for me is this: Sloot, I think, finally recognized I don't have to have the entire game on my shoulders, because she has seen the next level of talent that is Sabrina Ionescu, that is going to be Benaja Laney. I mean, for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, now you have a team with the depth that New York is potentially going to have, to where health always plays a factor with these women. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've increased the number of games that they play. So I'm just looking at New York and I'm saying, Stewie ain't got to be the one to carry the load. She got Jonquel. Sabrina ain't got to be the one to carry the load. And even if she does, because I mean, let's be very clear about something. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care anybody who comes in. This is Sabrina's team. And all Sabrina needs are those pieces to surround her and elevate her. And I see that look on your face, but hear me out on this one.
Okay.
Sloot has spent 12, 13, 14 seasons in Chicago. Yes, she's got a championship. She should have more than one, but she's got one. She, like Candace, is chasing the rings. She don't care how she gets it. She just wants to be a part of it. We all know who Sabrina is. We saw it in the playoffs last year. And from the moment Sabrina Ionescu stepped on the court, she was the one to be like, no, this is my house. This is me doing what I want to do. I just need everybody around me to kind of just work with me, and I'm going to take us where we need to go. We saw the frustration in Jonquel last year. I saw it firsthand when, they got over the hump and they finally beat Chicago to get back to the WNBA finals. But then you lose 3 to the Las Vegas Aces, who we all knew was a dominant team.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Sue Bird left Seattle. Breanna Stewart just wanted to come back home. Oh, and by the way, a name that we haven't mentioned yet, Stephanie Dolson. I think Stephanie Dolson is the glue that's keeping this team together. She played with Sloot. Her and Stewie were college teammates together. She's already worked with Benaja. She's already worked with Sabrina. Jonquel is just an added addendum. So that's why I say, when I look at the landscape of the New York Liberty under Sandy Brondello, if it was any other coach, I might ride with you. But Sandy knows how to get the best of every single one of those players. And that's why I'm saying, listen, you're absolutely right. The 3 matchups, there's 3 in August. Those games are going to be lights out. But that first game in July that we see, I think is going to set the tone. New York, I can't see it. And yes, personally, from a personal standpoint, my heart rides with Sloot, because I just think she is the point. She's the floor general. She's the point guard. She is one of the top assist leaders in the W. But there's just something about the energy she brings. And here's the thing. I'm going to leave you with this, and I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
If Sabrina Ionescu ever has a night off, Sloot is right there to pick it up and say, I'm going to run with it.
And when you look at, we talked about this off air, Eric. You look at how New York is constructed. You look at, Courtney Vandersloot. You look at Sabrina Ionescu. I know you just mentioned that this is Sabrina's team, but to me, when you bring in Breanna Stewart, it becomes Breanna Stewart's team. It's point blank simple. Breanna Stewart's the best, arguably 1A to, actually 1B to Asia Wilson's 1A when it comes to the hierarchy of the best players in the league. If you say Breanna Stewart's the best player in the league, you get away with that. If you say Asia Wilson's the best player in the league, you can get away with that. And you even say Jonquel Jones, who's on this roster with the Liberty, you can say it. You can argue each story because they're the last 3 WNBA MVPs.
Right.
But let's look at how Vegas is put together, right? Asia Wilson is the reigning, defending, and undisputed MVP of this entire league. Kelsey Plum took her game to a whole new level last season. Not only was she All-Star Game MVP, she had a career high in scoring, career high in three-point percentage, career high basically across the board as she was first team All WNBA last season. Then you add the real point guard, the best point guard in the world at this point in time right now in Chelsea Gray, the reigning finals MVP. All right. There's no point guard in the league better than Chelsea Gray. And there's only, if you're going to have the argument of the best guard in the league, there's only one other guard that you could have this conversation with. And she plays on neither one of these two teams. And she's pregnant right now. That's Skylar Diggins. That's Skylar Diggins Smith. That's the only other guard that comes to the same level as Chelsea Gray.
Okay.
I haven't mentioned that Jackie had a great season last year, averaging 16 points a game. And then they went out. You mentioned how Steph Dolson was a key for Liberty on the bench. They went out. They kept Raquana Williams, who was a huge member of that second unit for Vegas last year. But then in the offseason, they got Carla George, a veteran of the league, Australian national team, a big down the post. But Alicia Clark is a huge addition from Washington.
Okay.
Two-time all-defensive team, a person who can switch and play multiple positions from the 2, 3, and the 4, which is important because if you look at New York's roster, the one thing they have outside the post is Sabrina can play multiple positions, Banaja can play multiple positions. You mentioned Didi, you mentioned Michelle Arwin, I don't mention Michelle yet, but they have a lot of players who can switch. And I think having someone who like Alicia, who's been a two-time champion, a two-time all-defensive player, and who knows how to play defense on all levels, helping out a Vegas team that that the only thing that really issue last year was defense. They've shored up the defense, and Asia doesn't have to worry about playing post because Eric, anybody better than anybody else. Candace is one of the best defensive players in the entire league.
Oh yeah.
This adding Candace Parker to Vegas this year reminds me of when Boston got Kevin Garnett.
Oh, wow, you taking it back there?
Because of what happens is Kevin went to Boston. Kevin didn't have to be Minnesota Kevin Garnett. He didn't have to be Minnesota KG. All KG had to do was play defense, be solid, and be the leader. What does Candace Parker have to do? She doesn't have to score 20 a game. She doesn't have to get 10 rebounds a game. She doesn't have to get 10 assists a game. Candace can just go out there and basically allow Asia to play the post and her to guard other power forwards. Because, Eric, now I got something for you. Let's look at the starting fives. If you look at it, Chelsea Gray to me is ahead of Courtney Vandersloot. I know Courtney's your girl. That's the one that Vegas has easily. New York has, and I hate to say this, Brianna is ahead of Candace Parker. I'll give you those two wash. You can even say Asia and Jonquel might cancel each other out. And that's hard to say because, Jonquel, she struggled because of what was going on in Connecticut, but the year before she was dominant. We all know this.
Right.
But here's where I think it turns in the favor of Vegas. As good as Sabrina Nescu was last year, Kelsey Plum was amazing last year, and she's a better shooter. On top of that, I will take Jackie Young over Banaja Laney. Even though Banaja was hurt last year, she struggled. I don't know where Banaja fits. Jackie Young knows her role. I'm not sure where Banaja fits. But if we go to start line game, I have it 3-1-1 in the favor of the Las Vegas Aces.
All right.
Balls in your court, sir.
No, so I'm gonna flip the script on you, and because I have watched Courtney Vandersloot over the last 3 seasons, and I have seen her at a moment's notice take over a game, and I take nothing away from Chelsea Gray. And so I would say there is my wash. I would say both of those women have proven with the experience and with the timing, they can handle a game at a moment's notice. They don't need to be asked. They don't need to be told. It's a look, and it's like, okay, I got you. When I look at Jonquel and Asia, that is where I'm going to side and say, I'm going to give the nod to Asia. Asia, there's just something about Asia Wilson. And again, nothing against Jonquel Jones because I know her durability. That woman will play till you have to carry her off the court in order for Jonquel to not play. But there's just something about Asia Wilson that really made my eyes and my ears stand up last year to say, okay, she's a different woman. She's very different.
She's elite.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give that one to Asia. When I look at Candace and I look at Stewie, potential 2 Hall of Famers, they're just vying for championships. So there is another wash that I have.
Ooh, okay.
I'm just saying because they
Okay.
both are like they're not about the money. Which listen, the women still need to make more money. They are about them championships, and they are up to be more selfless than selfish. Here is
Okay.
my difference maker, and you hit the nail on the head. We haven't seen the best of Benaja. Yes, she was injured last year. My reservation about her is simply this. Even though Jackie Young understands her role and knows her role, but Naja's like, no, 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 no. Y'all are going to talk about everybody else and not speak about me. I'm going to go out there and remind y'all, especially when we play Vegas, who I am. Because Benaja Laney is a young woman who is on the come up, and we haven't seen her yet. Jackie Young, we have tape on her. We have tape on Benaja, but not like we do on Jackie. She can move, but again, the energy that Benaja has, and again, it's one of those things. Growing up in Philly, that's kind of my girl. I'm stuck on her like that. Now, when we get down to them last two, when we get down to Sabrina, and we get down to, excuse me,
Kelsey Plum.
yes, Kelsey Plum. I'm just it's that old saying, and you and I both know this. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the heart of the dog. And Sabrina is just something different. I watched her play Chicago both in Wintrust and at the Barclays Center. And even in the whether it be regular season or postseason, when Sabrina get that look in her eye, that death stare, that Kobe Mamba mentality stare, can't nobody touch her. And I'll be the first, can't nobody touch her. And I really feel like she is now coming into, she now has a full season with Sandy. She understands what that coaching staff expects of her, but they're also going to let Sabrina be Sabrina. That's why I say, yes, Breanna Stewart coming to the team makes it about Breanna, but I think Sabrina is going to be like, listen, I know why you're here. Let's go get that ring. But at the end of the day, I think people are still going to say this is going to be her team. And again, we're not even talking about Johannes. We're not even talking about Dolson. We're not talking about that bench depth. That's another pivotal factor. They already know, because we've got Didi, we've got Michelle, we've got Steph Dolson. I mean, I'm looking at this and saying we already know that the W brings about the best women, 144 of them. But now you've got 2 starting lineups. This team reminds me of what I saw the year that the Sky won the championship, because you could mix and match wherever you need to. Now, what I wonder, and you and I talked about this, is they're showing right now that Courtney's going to be in the starting lineup, but Sloot would have to make the transition from point to shooting guard because Sabrina's the point guard.
Well, last year, if you look at it, Eric, if you watched the Liberty last year, the Liberty turned it on when Sabrina went off ball. When Crystal Dangerfield took over the point guard position, it let Sabrina be off ball. You saw Sabrina's usage and her overall play go through the roof. And I think that was the reason why you brought Sloot into the game, because as good as Sabrina is handling the basketball and making plays, and Johannes is literally Johannes has such a great all-around game. We all know she's an outstanding passer. What happens is when you take the ball out of Sabrina's hand as a playmaker, it allows Sabrina to be more dangerous everywhere else. Okay, Sabrina in the open floor is a menace. I mean, if she's in transition, she's a menace. But a lot of times, when Sabrina has to be a playmaker, she's got to play defense. She's got to score. She's got to do all this. Eric, we've watched. It doesn't matter which level of basketball it is.
Right.
When you have to do everything, it takes everything out of you. And for as good as Sabrina is, you kind of want her not to have that big responsibility. And once again, when it comes to running a team, there's nobody better. I mean, in a half court setting than Courtney Vandersloot. I mean, literally. I mean, there's only one other point guard in the history of the league that has that type of ability in the half court, and that's Tisha Panachero. I mean, Tisha had the ability to run the half court, and Courtney has outstanding court vision. I mean, I guess it's something with Gonzaga guards They just know how to have court vision.
Yeah.
And Courtney is one of those in those Gonzaga, basketball teams with the court vision. The one thing I have with New York, we all know how great New York is. I think it's going to be an adjustment period before the Liberty get themselves going. It's going to take a little bit. Anytime that you put that type of talent together, we've watched it, Eric. It happened with the Heatles when LeBron and them. It was 9-11 their first year. It's happened. It happened in Brooklyn the first couple of, it happened in Brooklyn. It's happened in Golden State. It doesn't naturally happen as fast as people think. And that's why I said Vegas has a better chance to get off to a hot start, because all you're doing with Candace is plug and play. All you add, De'Arica Hamby was basically Candace Parker, a supersized version of Candace Parker now. It's going to be an easier transition. There's less new pieces in the rotation for Vegas than it is for New York. So I get what you're saying, but I will say this. It's going to come down to who has home court in that finals. And because Vegas is going to have a better start, Vegas will have home court in the WNBA finals,
Oof.
which will be the deciding factor of who wins that series.
I can't argue with you on that one. I can't argue with you because I feel that plays a major fact in determining who ultimately is going to come out of this. What I will say is, and I have to go back and look, but I know for a fact that Courtney's not playing overseas. I don't believe Stewie's playing overseas. So
Stewie is overseas.
She is overseas. Okay. All right. So that was what I wanted to look at, because the timing now is going to be so crucial. The sooner these five can get together and Sandy can kind of come in and they can sit down and formulate that game plan, knowing that the expectation has been raised to that exponential level right now, knowing that this is going to be an East Coast, West Coast matchup that everybody is already predicting simply based on the trades. And we're not even done.
Nope.
Free agency started yesterday and these moves are being made. And so now we have to figure out, okay, now the expectation is, whether it be the game in July, and I lost the date, but then we've got August 6th, we've got August
17th, I think
17th, and then August 28th. Yeah, those games are going to, and they're towards the tail end of the regular season. So it's going to be like, okay, where are you at? Will Las Vegas get off to a hot start? Probably. But we know as the season goes on, and especially after the All-Star break, we're going to be paying close attention to where these two teams are virtually ranked, because those three games, like you said, could determine home field. If Las Vegas gets home field, I think it goes to full 5, and I think it's going to come down to who wants it more. If New York has I'm telling you right now, if New York has home court in the WNBA finals, I'm going to call it right now. I was yelling Sky in 4 back in 2021. I'm yelling Liberty in 4 in 2023, because that energy that you are now bringing into the Barclays Center, the first year of putting these 5 extraordinary women together on the court, led by a phenomenal coach in Sandy Brondello. Look, this matchup speaks of, to your first point that you said here tonight, it is what the W needs. It is what we all have been waiting for. And now we get the opportunity to see it. We can't predict what is going to happen with regard to health, injury, and anything like that. I just want these 10 women and these 2 teams to remain healthy this entire season, because if there was ever, and you were telling me this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if there was ever a time to be a part of the WNBA, it is head, shoulders, forget the 25th season. The 27th season is the season you want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't even talked about the other 10 teams in the league, and I know this is going to be the ongoing factor, because now you have 10 teams targeting 2 teams.
Yep.
And there's still some names out there free agency. We haven't heard. Nneka Ogwumike is probably the main one that everybody's waiting on. It's going to be interesting how her and her sister fit into LA, especially with the moves that the LA Sparks have made over the last week with De'Arica Hamby. Your girl Azurá Stevens is now signed in LA today, to see how that's going to work with that roster. But I will say this: it's going to be fun watching the other 10 teams try to take down those 2 teams. And then, Eric, we can have the conversation at the end of the season, because I really want to see how these two teams not only match up with each other, but whoever holds that championship trophy, how those teams compare to the three greatest teams in WNBA history on top of that.
Ooh, okay. All right.
And then Eric, then
Yeah.
we can have another show about where do we rank these teams in the history of the WNBA. And that's the conversation I can't wait to have because it's going to get heated on that one.
Oh, there's no question about it because the comparison between those that, maybe started the league or were dominant in their era, in their little time frame versus what we're going to see this season between the New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces, and like you said, the other 10 teams that are still trying to, okay, now teams have made their mark. So now who do we go get? I mean, I just heard that Courtney Williams, she left Connecticut. She's now in Chicago. I expect that Skylar Diggins-Smith won't be back this season. I'm really curious to see what Vanessa Nygaard does because she will have Brittany Griner back if she decides to stay in Phoenix. You've still got Diana, who said she's going to play at least another season. So, you've got Sophie Cunningham. You have Diamond DeShields. So what is Phoenix going to do with the second
Kings
year?
lost Kia Nurse today as well, too. So,
oh, yeah, and Kia Nurse, yes.
Well, Kia Nurse is gone. She said she's not
coming back to
Phoenix today. In your Chicago team, you mentioned Courtney Williams. They signed Isabel Harrison today as well too. So the one question for Chicago is, what's Emma Meesseman going to do? If Emma comes back, that's going to give Chicago a little bit more of a push going forward. Or does Emma go back and play in DC with EDD, and they try to rerun that championship team back?
And that's a name that we always seem to kind of sleep on when it's free agency or when it's like draft time or preseason. We want to know about the health of EDD, Elena Deladon, but it just seems as though, in the beginning of the season, she balls out, she's great, but then like halfway through the season, it's like she kind of falls off the radar a little bit. And I'm just like, now Coach Mike T is not, he's not
there.
coaching it. Yeah, his son is. Yeah. So I'm just wondering what Eric Tybalt is going to bring to this team and who are they going to get? Because they need some pieces themselves, at the very least, to remain in the top 8.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm waiting on Atlanta. I can't wait to see what Atlanta did with the backcourt of Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray coming in.
Yeah.
And then what happens with Tiffany Hayes? Will Atlanta bring Tip back because she hasn't been playing in 2 years? And if you get her with a healthy Cheyenne Parker, who's going to have a year coming off of being pregnant, and she's her first full season back, and she's really, really in game shape. Atlanta's dangerous. And then Eric, Aaliyah Boston and Indiana seem like a match made in heaven. How is that going to look with her and Nalissa Smith forming probably another dynamic duo up front? This league has so much, Eric, this season, and all Kathy has to do is tell us the expansion teams, and then we can start looking at 2024. But until we get to 2024, this season is going to be, like you mentioned before, we said 25 was great. 27 is going to be something the league hasn't had. And Eric, I'm not going to lie, these two starting fives are on the same level as the Minnesota starting five that was the dynasty, with arguably the greatest starting five of all time in the history of the league.
Okay.
With Maya Moore, Simone Augustus, Sylvia Fowles, Rebecca Brunson, and Lindsay Whalen, who are 5 Hall of Famers.
I guess it was truly one of those things where it was like when Sue and Sylvia both said, thank you very much. We're taking our ball and we're going home after all that we've done. The WNBA was like, okay, this is our moment. We gotta now pick it up and run with it. And that's exactly what they're doing. Man, I'm so excited for this. Danny, thank you so much for being a part of this, brother, man. I really appreciate you. Hey, we're going to keep having this conversation. I will see you, I'm sure, in April at the Black Sport Business Symposium, my brother.
Of course.
As always, much love to you. And do me a favor. Could your Hornets maybe, I don't know, try? Because I want to support them. I want to believe in them, but I can't.
Listen, we're going crazy for Wemby. That's all we're doing.
Okay.
We want Wemby.
Fair enough. My brother, Danny Thompson, your man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena. Hey, everybody stay blessed. We out.
Peace.